Hello everyone, I'm Melanie with Painting Crafty, and tonight is Thursday Night Draw Along, and I'm going to be walking you step by step how to draw this little chick, and then show you some little watercolor ideas, simple, kind of easy watercolor, be able to color it in. But once you have the image drawn, actually, use whatever you have. If you like using acrylic paint, use your acrylics or colored pencils, markers, whatever you might have, because it really doesn't matter. But I'm going to be showing you step by step. So you're going to be able to increase your drawing skills as you follow along with me. I'll break it down into simple steps and we'll start from there. So let's go ahead and well, you know what? I wanted to show you. If you're interested in doing watercolor, this is the watercolor paper that I use, the Canson watercolor paper. It's 140 pounds, so it's still considered a student grade watercolor paper, which means it's reasonably priced. And I'm a firm believer, spend just a tiny bit more on your watercolor paper and then just buy the watercolor you can afford. I'm just using a student grade watercolor tonight, nothing too fancy at all. Hello, Donna. Hello, Gloria. Thanks, ladies, for popping in on YouTube this evening. Oh, and before I forget, I do have a Ko-fi page for those people who are interested in doing tracers. The Ko-fi page gets the tracers for the drawings of my Facebook Lives and my YouTubes, and it's reasonably priced. It's just a great way to go ahead and support my page. And if you don't like to draw, or you want, actually, I like having a reference. I like having a reference when I'm drawing. So this is a great way to have a reference. And I also include a colored copy of my drawing or painting that I do. And you can use that however you would like to use it for your personal use. So let's go ahead and make little me big picture. So when I teach the drawings, I always grid my paper off. So this is a 6x6. I usually use this size because it's easy to draw and have it in my screen. And it's a 6x6, so I draw down the middle this way and then across. Hello, Kelly Rose. Thanks for coming on. And that's how I'll start. That just is going to give you an idea of where proportions are to how I'm going to draw. Tonight, that will really be helpful because my chick is facing sideways. So I'll have my middle line here, which is where I'm going to pop my eye. But I'm going to come off to the side here with a little arch to be able to draw where to put his beak. So that's going to be really helpful to be able to size it up that way. So let's go ahead and start. Now I'm anxious to see everyone's version because they're all going to look slightly different. Mine looks different every time I draw it because I can't draw it the same way 2 times in a row. But I'm going to set this, maybe the black and white one here. Hopefully you can see that. All right, we're going to start off with my little chick face. Now he's got kind of a chubby little face. I'm going to start with a shape that's going to be a little kind of an oblong circle. So I'm going to start this way and we'll build off of this oblong circle is where my face is going to be. I'm going to drop it just ever so slightly below my line. He's got some fat cheeks. I like to do this little sketchy motion to warm my hand up to give it, and that's probably too tall. Let's make it a little bit shorter. He's got a chubby little face, but okay, so there is my little head that I'm going to be building on. Now let's do just kind of a roundish circle for his body. So he's going to look like a little bit of a snowman right away is where we're going to start this figure off. But we'll just build off of these blocks to make our little bird. Okay, so there we have our 2 circles. That's what I'm going to be building off of. Okay, so if you can look, my bird is actually turned sideways. So this part is going to be the back of his head. And this will be the part of, we're going to see as like a side cheek of our bird. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to curve this out and make it a little bit of a cheek. So I'm going to come down and then I'm going to curve it out just a little ways. Give him a little bit of a curve here. So I'm going to build off of that circle shape I have. Now this one's going to be the back of his head. So I'm going to make this a little bit more straighter and I'm going to connect it to the back of my bird body. Okay, so we have it. Now you can erase the little extra lines that you have. That'll help you kind of decide on your bird shape, on your bird face. So now we have his head built. Now let's go ahead and work just a little bit on his body. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come off to the side here. This is still going to be, we're going to put a jacket on him, but I'm going to just pop his little tail in. So I'm going to come around and then just give it a little tail. It's not going to be too far away from his body because he's just a little chick. So we're just going to make a little tail and then have it come back down here. And that's going to be his belly. Okay, so we have our little bird. Go ahead and decide which of those lines you want to keep. I'm going to erase this one right here down the middle because I will no longer need that. Have that pretty much set up. All right, let's work a little bit on his hat. So we're going to do his hat now. In his hat, if you look, I'll hold this over here. It's going to have this rim that comes around, but it's going to drop slightly lower here because it's going around to the back part of his head is what you're seeing. So we're going to continue out just a little ways and then bring it down a little lower. So you can see mine is up higher here, and it's actually, if I did a diagonal, it's going to end at a diagonal. So that'll make it look like it's going around his head and that you're seeing a little bit of the back. If you want to, you can do that little bit of a diagonal. If that helps you draw your hat, you could just lightly do a line so you have an idea of where you're going. I'm going to start with this little flying saucer shape, I kind of call it. It's going to come out. It's going to go over my forehead because it's sitting on his head. And I'm going to be coming around this direction. And then I'm going to be coming around here. So it's going to go a little lower and end here. Okay, so now I'll erase this line because that's not really where it is. Okay, and then we're going to do a little scoop for his hat off to the side, just a little like backward C motion. It's going to come across his little forehead again, and I'm going down into my hat because this band is going around my head. And then I'm going to pop up and just do a little, kind of just a small little round dome. That's going to be the top part of his hat. Okay, and then he's going to get a little button on the top of his hat, cute as can be. I'm going to erase this here, open this up so I can see what I've got going on. And then I'm going to do those little V shape, upside down V right here to make my dividing lines. Okay, we're going to make that come out just a little bit farther. Okay, we got our little buttons on. Our little hat, so cute as can be. Now let's go ahead and work on his face. So here was going to be where I'm going to be lining up my eye. I have to come over here. I'm going to make a little bit of an arched line. This is going to help me set up where the center of my face is actually going to be. So I want to know that this is where my beak is going to be, and my eye is actually going to be on this line. So let's start with our beak. So I'm just going to come out. Now this is a little chick, so it's not going to be too big. So I'm starting down a little ways. I'm going to come out this direction and then come back with my line. Now he's got just a tiny little beak. He's not got he's being a little chick. He's going to have a short one. Now let's work on our eye. So our eye is going to come over here. We're going to make a round circle. I'm going to butt it up right next to my line. It's going to be kind of even-ishy, like if I did a little line here. Like how we normally, when we do our birds, we always line our beaks up that way and our eyes up that way. So my little circle is going to sit right on that line. And I got my little circle. They don't have very big eyes. Little chicks have smaller eyes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the top of that circle off with a line that's going with a little bit of a shape that's going over the top of it. And I'm just going to put just a tiny bit of a cheek line underneath there. Just a tiny one. So I don't want just a round circle for an eye. I want that top to be slightly cut off. Now this line over here, now we're going to do the other eye, but it's not going to be a perfectly round circle. We wouldn't see it all because his head is actually sideways. So I'm going to come over here and do more of an oblong circle that's going to come this direction, like that. I'm going to cut the top of that circle off too with just a small little line. And I'm just going to do the tiniest bit of cheek line there. Now I like to color in my eyes. If this helps you when you're drawing, to color it in and put your little catch light in there because it just brings it into life and you can actually see what your bird is doing, what your little drawing's looking like. I like doing that because it just helps me see, did I draw it right? Now it might take a little bit of work to draw your face on your little bird. That's what took me the longest time, was drawing the eyes. So take your time, do a pencil. I like to have a sketchbook. I have a little sketchbook that I use, just simple paper, and often I'll do my beginning sketches in there and then build it up to work on my watercolor paper. So if you want to practice your sketching first off to the side before you do your watercolor, do that, get your hand warmed up, and then do it on your watercolor paper. All right, let's go ahead and put his little jacket on. So his little jacket is off to the side here. So we're going to see the back part of his coat here. So it's going to be a little wider than his body. So his body would have been right here. I'm going to go a little wider than his body. And then when I'm doing the bottom of his coat, I'm going to be kind of doing a a longer down, and then it's going to get around because the center is going to be over here. Because remember, he's looking sideways. So I'm going to start with my jacket. I'm going to come a little ways away from my body. He's got a short little coat on because he's a little tiny fella. And then I'm going to start coming this direction. So I'm going to swoop it down a little ways. I'm heading more towards this direction down here for his coat. Okay, there's going to be where his coat's going to end. I'm going to erase this here because I no longer need that. Okay, now let's go ahead and put his arm in, his little shoulder. So we're going to start with his shoulder. His shoulder is going to be up a little higher. These are going to be drawn at a slight angle, so they're not straight across. So let's make that bell shape. It's going to be a little wider at one end. Again, I like using that sketchy movement. And then I'm going to put this at an angle. And then my top one at an angle. All right, so we have his little shirt or his arm in. Let's go ahead and put his little wing in. So that's going to drop down. And usually the top, I usually give it a shape where this one is shorter and then they get a little longer as they come down. You can decide if you want it to look like feathers or if you're just going to make it plain, whatever suits you. Okay, so we have that part in. Let's pop in his buttons so we know where in the placket of his shirt, so we know where the center is. So I'm going to look off to here, and this is where I'm going to arch it this way, so like a backward C motion. We're going to go that direction. And here we're going to make that same direction. So it's going to go back this direction, a backward C. Now we have that part done. Now he's got a cute little bow tie in here. So let's pop the bow tie in before we put our buttons in. So to do the bow tie, I'm just going to start right here at the neckline with a circle and then go up like just a regular bow. Come over here and come back in. Now you can take your eraser. That's the one nice thing I like about the small little erasers is I can come in here and get the small little detail. It works so much easier than a big old eraser. Now I'm just gonna pop in probably 3 buttons. I like even or odd little numbers. All right, now he needs another little wing on the other side. So we're gonna pop that other wing in. There's just a little tiny bit of motion that's a backward C kind of motion, a cuff, and then there's gonna be a little feather there too. So I'm gonna come on this side, gonna go away from his body, follow what I drew here, little ways out. You can come all the way down and incorporate part of the wing, part of the jacket. I'm going to go right here, that. So that's going to be his cuff. This is his arm of his jacket, and then this is his wing right here. Okay, we have him. We got a really good start. Now let's go ahead and pop some feet in. So his feet, to get it to look like chicken and not a duck, is that you want to have this little back toe that kind of comes out this direction. If you add that little back toe coming in, and then the 3 little feet here, this has got a line that comes up and out. So this is wider here for a little while, and then it goes narrow, and then it just pops out like 3 fingers with that little bit of a toe. So let's put in some feet. So we're gonna put in, I'm gonna come here, this direction first, then I'm gonna go skinny, come this way. This one's, I just tend to do these pretty fast. I don't spend a lot of time on them. Okay, and then I do 1 toe, 2 toes, 3 toes. Boy, I got a little bit low on this picture. I didn't leave myself a lot of room to get my feet on there. Now let's do our little back foot, and I'm going to have this one come down a little bit this direction. I might not be able to see everything. That's okay. You don't have to. It will just read that that's a foot. Okay, I have my little fat chick on, and he's all ready. I'm going to erase this line here, those little guide marks. Take a look at him, see if he looks nice and plump enough. Oh, I forgot to put his little collar in. He's got this cute little collar that goes around his neck. So it's going to be narrow here. It's going to slope down to a point, and then it's going to come back up and touch that bow tie. So let's work back here. So let's start here. We're going to come down. I'm going to follow it around, and now this is when I'm going to slope it down and then come back up. Cute, cute, cute. All right, he's all done. He's all drawn. All right, I'm going to use my big fat eraser. I like these polymer erasers to erase my guide marks and my darker marks, but I also like using the gum eraser to lighten my drawing. So there's need for both, and I like using both. And I'm going to come in here and give this a erase. So, all right, let's pop in a few little flowers. So I just did some simple little flowers. I wanted to do kind of a picture that was mostly just the same color. So I've stuck to just the golds and a little bit of rust in here, a little bit of brown. And the flowers I did the same way as what I did my chick and my coat and everything like that. And the same with the little butterfly. And then the background is the same color as my bow tie. So I wanted to keep it really simple, but just to have the interest on the chick himself. So let's go ahead. I'm going to put some flowers in here. So I'm just going to start with like a ruffly top right here. And then I'm going to bring it in like a little bell shape like that. Then I'm going to come off to the side, do another little ruffly shape. Come over here, come up, a little ruffly shape. I'm going to put just a little knob at the bottom. And I mostly just kind of went a little slight bend and then down. And I gave these some leaves that look kind of like tulip leaves. I just made these flowers up. They're just fun flowers. They're not real flowers, but they're fun. And put in as many as you might have room for on the paper that you are drawing. So I'm going to come up here and do another one here. So I'm going to do the opposite direction. It does look nice to switch the directions of your flowers. So mine was going off this way. So this one I want to change the direction, either straight up or have it going a little bit curved the other way. So this one I'm going to start, and then my center petal, come up, do some wiggles, a little bit of a dot, down we go. Make those little tulip leaves kind of long and skinny. Then down. Now I'm going to bring this one up a little bit higher. So I don't want them all the same height. So I've got plenty of room, so I can make this one higher. And then this one I'm going to make a little less open. So I'm going to make a skinnier mark like that. Come up with my petal. Come over here, skinnier, make it come around. A little bit over, and then maybe even one couple behind. So it's not real, it's more closed. Now let's go ahead and make some of those leaves and just open that area up. All right, let's pop in a little bit of a butterfly. So this is just a simple little butterfly. I'm going to start with a circle right here, and I'm just going to do a wiggle jiggle line that's going to be arched. So just a real irregular line is all I'm doing. I'm going to come up with the first wing, up, over, and down. This one I'm going to make a little longer back this way. And if you want to add a double one, you can come in and double your form. This is just a simple little butterfly. I'm going to put some antennas in here because it's always cute. And that's about all I did. Now there's plenty of room up here to add more bugs, to add a saying, whatever you might like to add onto your drawing. There's plenty of room to do that. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my my other eraser, my kneaded eraser, and I'm going to go over some of these lines because they're pretty dark. I have to draw kind of darker so you can see what I'm doing, but I don't want that dark all the way around my painting. So I'm going to lighten it up with this gum eraser. The gum erasers are good for this step because they're not going to smear your graphite all over your paper. If I were to try to do this lightly with this, I would end up with a mess with the graphite all over my paper. Ask me how I know, because I've done it. This one works so much better. Okay, we're just going to lighten those all up just a tiny bit. Okay, let's go ahead and start with our watercolor. You know, I thought I was going to use this set, but I think I'm going to change my mind. Hi, Deb. I'm going to come on and I'm going to use my Paul Rubens tonight. This one's got a nice gold. It's got some nice browns in it. I like this little set. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one. And when you get, if you're new to watercolor, and I know new people are always finding me, if you are new to watercolor, whatever set you might be using, even if you're using Crayola watercolors, you're going to want to take a piece of paper that you normally use and create a color card so that you can know what your paints are going to look like on your paper, because your paper's white and they look so different in the pan than what they're going to look like on paper because of that translucent nature if you're using watercolor. Now with watercolor, you always start light and then work your way dark. So I'm going to start here. I've got some real pretty golds that I'll use. There is this little chicky yellow if you wanted to go really bright and add a little bit of bright color in there. But whatever color you start with, you want to start with your lightest version first. And I'm probably just going to use this pan. It's kind of messy. Maybe I should clean that off just a tiny bit. The good thing about watercolor is that you can reuse this. It's not, once it dries, you can still use the paint on there. So I was busily doing a spring lamb today. So I was using some purples and some different colors that were on here, but you can reuse them. So you never feel like you have to get rid of them. I'm going to start over here and I'm going to choose, maybe I'll try this golden. This is kind of a yellow ochre color. It's kind of a dirty gold. I'll set a little bit of that up. I'm thinking I am going to take a little bit of bright yellow. So let's see, I'm going to try a little bit of cadmium yellow, medium. So I'm going to have that here. Some of these paint names are always hard to say. So I have a little bit of bright, a little bit more dirtier gold, and we'll start with those first. So let's start with the bright gold. And since I said I was kind of doing everything in the similar palette, you're going to see that I'm kind of using that same paint everywhere. But I'm going to start here with this bright yellow, a little bit on his hat. Now I'm going to leave some open areas if I can. And pop those in there. I'm going to put a little bit of this bright on this Chicky too. He's going to be going a lot darker. I'm going to leave a little bit of bright highlights here and there if I can. Where you might think that there would be a highlight, leave it white if you can. That's a cool thing about watercolor is that if you can leave some of the original bright highlights in of your substrate of your paper, those will be your brightest whites. I'm going to leave a couple highlights on his jacket. I'm going to stir in here. Now this is going to be going a lot darker. I'm kind of following how I drew it. So my brush strokes are kind of following what I drew. So here I would be making my strokes this way on his little jacket just to add that the contour to my drawing. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of that bright down below too. You can tell I'm really going to be changing it because there would have to be a difference in the colors. They can't all be the same. Okay, here we go. Now those who are watching tonight, I think you shared your bunnies the other day. They are so cute as can be. I'm looking forward to sharing them this weekend, over the weekend. They're just really cute and adorable. It's always fun to see everybody's version of them. So I so appreciate it. And the little chick too, if you draw one, there's a post on my Facebook page that has the banner of this chick on it. And if you want to post your pictures underneath there, I usually find them. And I love to share everyone's work because everybody's version looks different. It doesn't mean it's not good if it doesn't look like mine. Everybody has a different hand and a different eye. So they all turn out so different. Now I'm just laying in just another bright layer of this bright yellow. And then I'm going to start toning it down because this is pretty bright if I left everything this bright color. But this is going to be that next layer of brightness. Watercolor always dries slightly lighter, so you have to add the layers. So give yourself a little bit of time and layer in the colors. And you're going to see how watercolor magically develops those translucent layers and how the colors come to life. Now I'm going to start using some of this yellow ochre on the bottom part here. So we're going to start changing it up a little bit here. I'm going to come in here and add this next layer. Now I don't want to cover, I want to still leave some of those bright highlights where I might think that there might be a bright. But I know this would be shadow underneath here because this is where his jacket is. So I want to make sure I'm adding some darkness there. I don't have a lot of water on my brush, so I'm not trying to get puddles when I'm laying this down. I've mixed my colors to about tea consistency is where I'm starting. So I'm going to come up here and add some more. This is going to be in shadow. So now this is that next dirtier yellowish color. So I'm going to be able to build up my colors. think I'm going to put some of that goldenish yellow on his little wings too. I should have put some of that bright golden color on my flowers. I did use that for my flowers. I did just a simple little wet on wet technique with this. So I just put in my brightest color. And while they were still wet, I would pick up a little bit of that golden color, just kind of right from my palette, put it off to the side, and I would tap a little bit of that golden color in there and let those colors just kind of flow and do its magic on its own. And that's all I did pretty much for the flowers. I didn't spend a ton of time painting those flowers, but you get a lot of help from the magic of watercolor and the way the colors want to float into the water. So I made it work for myself that way. Let's tap in just a tiny bit here. That golden yellow doesn't have a lot of water in it, but there's a lot of pigment in there that I'm tapping in here. Okay, let that work. And it's going to look really pretty. All right, let's go ahead and deepen up our golden now one more time. So I'm going to take that golden color that I used. Now I'm going to be starting to move in to a little bit more rusty color. So I'm going to choose an umber. Let's come over here. So this has got a little bit of rust in it. So here we go. We're going to come over here and add that. I can also pick up a little bit of burnt umber, which is more of a brownish color. I can have a little bit of that sitting here all ready to go, so I can start mixing my colors together. This is the set that I like my browns in. My other set I'm always complaining about, I don't like my browns. This one I like my browns in. All right, let's start building up. So I'm going to start with this color again. I'm going to tap it in. Now I'm going to do a different color on his beak. So I am kind of avoiding it and not going in there to touch too much on that beak. And again, I don't have a ton of paint or water on my brush. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit of that rust color, the rustier one. And I'm going to start adding even a deeper shadow. Okay, let's let that dry a little bit. All right, let's go in back to my yellow ochre again. A little less water this time, probably more like milk consistency. Yeah, we got tea, we got milk. Sounds like we're having dinner. Tea and milk. Okay, let's come here, add a little bit more of this golden color here. We have to have a difference between our jacket and our body. So whatever color your chick ends up being, you need to have a difference in between if you're doing them all the same color using a limited color palette. Now, if you're switching out his jacket color and not leaving it yellow, you probably won't have to worry about it as much. You can just change your colors. I'm going to choose a little bit of that light bright, but I'm also going to mix a little bit of my dirty color, yellow ochre, into this. So I'm going to make my own color. Okay, let's do a little bit of this color on his sleeve here. I'm not trying to cover up everything. And this would be more in shadow back here. I am going to add just a little bit of pen work on him too at the end. Now this little coat back here is going to be, I'm going to switch the color almost to a darkish reddish gold because I know it's going to be farther back, so I want it to be a different color. Tone that down just a little bit. Okay. Now that front placket is right in the front, so it's going to be, I want it to be a little lighter. So I'm going to add more water to this so it's not so dark, but I'm going to use it to tone it again. So I'm going to add another layer. So keep on playing with your watercolors as you're laying them in. This is his bright collar. We don't want to lose that. We'll probably end up putting some pen work on there so it pops it out a little bit more. Now I have to do something with that front wing to change it up. So I'm going to choose a brown. Let's see, we're over here. And I'm going to pop that in to his wing just to give it a little different color. He's got to have some difference. I'm going to come up to here now and add a little bit more because this is probably dried enough to add another layer. So I still have some of that bright yellow that I started with. It's still there. I didn't lose it all. Now let's put another little layer on his hat. So let's go ahead and brighten up that hat just a tiny bit. Add some more color in there. So choose maybe where your lines are, where your shadows are going to be. This one would be darker underneath here. Something like that. Okay, cute. Now we have to darken up his belly underneath there. So it would be, I'm going to pick up some of this darker brown because this would be in shadow underneath here. But I don't want to have just a line. So if you get your color going on there and then you're like, oh, that's too much of a dark of a line, rinse your brush out quickly and then come back in with just maybe just a little clear water on your brush and then soften and push and pull that color. And that's how you can get that color to move around for you. Okay, now I took a really dry brush, so I rinsed my brush out with clear water, put it in my hand, and I gave it a squeeze on my paper towel. And I'm going to come into that darker brown, that burnt brown. I'm going to come in just with my brush right there on the tip, spread it out just a tiny bit. And I'm going to come into right here above his nose with my little brush. And I'm going to do just some little tiny strokes just to give it a little bit of a feather right there on that line. I'm going to do the same thing off to the side here, just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit, not a lot. All right, I'm going to use that same brown though, and I'm going to water it down because I'm going to do his beak. I'm going to have this brush come to a point. That's the one really good thing about having a nice watercolor brush, a round brush to do these little drawings with. It helps so much to have a great little tip on your brush. And these ones will pop back right back to a nice little round tip. This is the Velvet Touch Princeton brush. It's number 6. They're not terribly expensive. They will last you a long time. Now I'm going to come right in here and add just a tiny bit of color to his beak. Okay, just a little bit. All right, I gave him a little bit of rosiness cheeks, so I'm going to choose kind of an orangish color. Now my oranges in this set are really bright and bold, so I need to make sure I'm going to darken it down just a little bit with like this yellow color to get kind of more of a coral, and I want kind of a loose color. Now my face is pretty much dry. Whoops, sometimes it does that. Let's go ahead and I'm going to tap in just a little bit of a cheek. Now I'm not looking to have a perfectly round circle. I just want to add in a tiny bit of color, and I'm going to rinse out my brush, give it a squeeze, and I can tap in a little bit more and push and pull that color if I need to. Okay, great. Now let's go ahead and pop in some legs. I'm just going to use that little brown color that I used up higher. Now, if I'm going to take my time, if I wanted to take my time, I would probably even build up my chicken, the colors on my little guy, even farther. I would take it a little bit farther and spend a little bit more time and even develop my colors even more and my shadows even more. And if you do that, that's what's going to make it really come together. Oh, that's what it did. It switched me. All right, let's go ahead. Oh, there we go. Every once in a while there's an interference and I have no idea, and then it'll click to the different view. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's start mixing a green. Now I have this I have a lighter green in this set. And I can come over here and add just a little bit of this green. But I wanted kind of a pastel-y color. So in my cheap set, I do have a little bit of white in here. Yes. Usually there isn't a white watercolor, but it's a chalkiness, but it makes beautiful kind of pastel-y. It makes it a little bit thicker, and that's kind of, I wanted more of a light green to be able to do my little bow tie in. So I'm just going to float some of this light color on the bow tie. And this is the color that I used for my flowers. The green here because I wanted that real light feel. Oh, those little flowers turned out so cute. I should hold this up a little closer so you can see how the varied color is on that flower by just doing it that simple way and letting the colors blend. how pretty that is. By holding it closer, you can kind of get a little better view too of how what the colors are doing and sitting and blending. And I'm going to come here. And I wanted this light green too for my background. Thank you, Deb. Okay, here we go. Now I'm going to use this green too on my butterfly up at the top, or moth, whatever it might be. So I'm going to take a little bit more of that green, and I'm going to mix some white in it. Look away if you're a watercolor purist. If you follow me and draw along with me, you're probably not too offended by it. All right, so let's go ahead and add some of that green in here. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of that yellow as well and let it play with this green. So my green is in there. I'm going to pick up just a little bit of this bright yellow that I've been using down below, and I'm going to tap some of that in there and let those colors just melt together and see what we come up with. And here as well. Okay, he's cute. Now these lines here got a little too hard for me. I'm going to see if I can't move them a little bit. I've got just a damp brush with clear water, and I'm going to pop in some color over top of those little feather marks that I did and see if I can't get them to soften just a tiny bit. Some colors lift really well and others don't, but I'm going to see if I can't get that to lift. All right, let's do a little bit of pen work. So I'm going to take my 01 and bring him to life. Yes, he's eaten well. He's gotten his share of bugs. This is a Micron 1, so they're an archival ink, and they're perfect for doing this type of little drawing. I'm going to come in and darken up his eyes right here. This will bring this little guy pretty, you'll see how he comes to life just by darkening up those eyes for him. This one I didn't even put a highlight in because it was, oh, I could leave it a little bit down there, I guess. Now, oh, I didn't do a little yellow dot on the top of his hat. I better put that on there. Just a little bit of color. You know what? I need to finish his buttons. I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'm getting ahead of myself. I just added a dark button onto his jacket. Just a little brown button. Let's get ahead of myself. Okay, so let's do a little bit. Now I'm going to just do a very much a sketchy style where I'm not even necessarily concerned about following exactly what I drew. So this is the look I like. And I like a broken line too, so it doesn't have to follow everything. And I add a little bit more, add some more to it. I can double up my lines. I'm fine with that look too. And I like this very much hand-drawn, sketchy look in my paintings. But it's not for everyone. If you like more exact, you most certainly can trace it the way you drew it. And you can actually skip this spot too, or you don't even have to do this. If you like the look of just your watercolor that you did, you can keep it just as a watercolor and not add all the pen and ink, because by doing this, I'm changing it to more of a like a mixed media piece. So I'm adding like a pen and ink quality to it. So this is just what I like. I'm going to come in here. Okay. Oh, he's cute. I might add a little bit of feather, kind of a little bit of lines that are coming out, just maybe to give him a little bit more fluff look to him on the edge, just to give him a little bit more fluffy. Like Deb said, he's eaten well. We're giving him a little bit more chub, a little bit more fluffiness to his body on there. Okay, now I think I might leave my butterfly just pencil. So I'm going to come back in with my pencil and darken up my pencil line here and just leave it more of a pencil, which is another way you can add things. And I'm just going to add just a tiny bit of line work on my flowers, not a lot. I'm going to do those continuous lines where I try not to even pick up my pen and just travel along with one line. A fun exercise to do. we're going to be ready to pop in a very simple background. So I'm going to mix a little bit more of that green. I'm going to switch my brushes to my bigger brush. So now I'm going to switch to a 10. And I'm going to take that same green that I mixed for my green here, and I'm going to make a bigger puddle of that color. I like just, I normally tend to do just a light background. So there's my color there. I'm going to pick up some of that white off to my side, add that there. Okay. All right. Now this one, I tend to use, oh, I should have maybe done a little work on his beak too. Okay, I can come back in and do that. I tend to make my strokes random. And so I don't mind seeing the stroke work of my brush. I'm also okay if there's a little bit of drag action where my brush is not quite loaded, and I actually will see like some drag marks from my paintbrush, which adds kind of some interesting texture to this background. I'll hold it up just a tiny bit so you can see how they've got some little bit of drag marks that are in there. Okay, I'm going to stop right there with my background. Let's work a tiny bit on that beak and see if I can't get a little bit more detail in there. And now I may need to come in with this to add the little feather detail with my pen. Oh my gosh, did I say he's cute? Oh, I forgot his pocket. Let's pop a pocket in here. I forgot to add a pocket. Let's add just a tiny little pocket in there. Now this, you could take some time and add some more shadow into the pocket if you want to add one. I'm going to do some stitch marks here too, and maybe some stitch marks down the front of this little guy's jacket, like so. Cute as can be. Cute as can be. Now that I added that on there, I feel like I need to add a little bit of shadow in here just to pop it up a little bit more. One thing leads to the other. Okay. All right, darling. Now I did a few little black specks on mine. Let's see, I took some black. I watered it down a fair amount. I'll just do it. Oh, that's blue. Good thing I didn't use that color. I almost did a whole tapping of blue. I would have had green spots in the end, right? If it would have been blue, that would have changed the look of my picture. Okay, I better check my color chart to see where I'm at. Let's see, I need to be. The thing about the color chart is that it runs a different direction. I probably should put it this way, where it's actually matching my colors so I can see what I'm doing. That would be helpful. My goodness. Okay, I'm going to make this pretty thin. And I'm going to take a paper towel and kind of cover up my Chic so I don't get a lot of little black marks on him. I don't want a lot of black on there. Let's see. So I'm going to just take this here and I'm just going to tap a little bit now. Oops. A little bit of speckling. And let's move it down a little bit. Totally optional. Let's do a little down here. Maybe I can tap it without getting too crazy. All right. Well, I think he's cute as can be. I think he is cute as can be. He's darling. All right, remember to sign your work when you finish. Find a spot where you want to sign. I'm going to sign him right here. Right here. Now, every time I do it, I always say, you know, they don't look like twins, but they could be related because I can't draw them the same 2 times in a row. Well, that is it, my sweet friends. Thanks for coming on tonight. And I will be live again next week. I go live every Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesdays and Thursdays, you can find me in Facebook as well. But Thursday nights are my YouTube channel exclusively. Thanks, everyone, for giving me a thumbs up. That really does help. My page has gotten to be 201. Can you believe it? It's still very much a baby page, and I so appreciate everyone coming in and joining me, giving me a thumbs up, leaving those comments. It really does help where more and more people are starting to find me. So I so appreciate all of your willingness to come on this little artful journey with me. I see so many people here who have followed me for quite a long time, and I so appreciate you doing so. You have a great evening, and I'll see you again on Tuesday. Bye now.